why, I talk about this quite a bit on the channel, the fact that like, and even in the mentorship program, like one of the great things about an e-com agency is the fact that like you progress as an entrepreneur, and like, it just lends itself so great to other business models, right? It's just a natural progression towards that, like building your own e-com brands, if that's what you want to do, right? Because before building your e-com brand, you were like super you were super honed in what I call the kind of like the e-comite stage, where like you were building this kind of incubator, right, for e-com brands.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Like, I think having the agency gave me a lot of like, first of all, you work with like so many different brands, right? So you have all these brands in all these different niches. Like, they couldn't be any more different from each other. So you kind of start seeing patterns, and you start understanding like what these brands are doing really well, and also what they're really not doing very well. So
Mm.
you kind of start to identify, okay, this is like some trends I'm seeing. This works
Mm.
really well for this brand, but this doesn't work well for that brand. And
Yeah.
from there, you can kind of start thinking, okay, what would I do myself? How would I improve
Mm.
that? How would I make that better?
Yeah. And it's so unconscious. I don't know if this is the case for you, but like you're not like taking notes like, oh, this founder is doing this wrong, right? But it's just so unconscious. Like it almost, it's just this all this knowledge that they transfer onto you just by working with them, right? Have you felt that it's like super unconscious, or you were actively like looking at things that they could be doing better?
I would say both. On a very strategical level, like you see some strategic things that are like fundamentally wrong with the business. Maybe
Mm.
their margins aren't. Uh, they have very tight margins, for example, which makes it very hard to scale if they're using paid traffic. So these types of strategic things, like, you definitely notice.
Yeah.
Um, just going through the numbers, you're like, okay, there's no way that this business model could work at scale.
Yeah.
For example. And then there's other things where it's like the intangible stuff, where it's like the mindset of the business owner, how they approach their own brand. Are they like more of a short-term thinker or a long-term thinker? You just kind
Mm.
of start to adapt those mindsets as well, or notice those small
Okay.
things. Um, yeah.
If you were to like look back, right? Is there any specific founder, any you don't have to mention names, right? It's just any brand specific founder, any lesson that you vividly remember learning from your journey as an e-com agency owner?
Oh, that's a really good question. um, One thing I noticed, and I'm not thinking of a specific founder, but more of like a general ecom building mindset, is that you have the difference between like a founder that just only cares about sales and being as profitable as possible all the time, and the founder that's like, maybe we'll break even for a couple months if that
Mm.
means that we're able to acquire a whole bunch of customers that we can upsell to later and build like lifetime value over a long period of time. Start building brand, really focus
Yeah.
on the branding, um, really building something for the long term. And I think if you want to build something sustainable, that's the kind of mindset you have to have. Like, okay, maybe we're not going to make money right now, but
Yeah.
if that means we're going to be profitable later down the road, that's fine too.
Yeah. 100%. I think that's a pattern that I've seen with e-com founders as well, is the fact that like, obviously you got to have a good balance, right? You got to pay the bills, right? And you got to pay your team and all that stuff. But the ones that think more long term, the ones that think, hey, let's actually build brand as we make money and as we scale the brand. Um, like those are the ones that win, right? Whether it's through organic content or building a bit of a community, right? Or et cetera, et cetera. Like those are the brands that win at the end. Are there any ways that like you have, when it comes to building brand, are there any ways that like stand out to you as the go-to methods? Or yeah, what would you say when it comes to building brand? What are some of the keys as an ecom brand?
I mean, there's so many things, right, that make a good e-commerce brand.
Mm.
I think there's a few like strategical slash, yeah, I would say strategical things that stand out. One of them is having good margins, right? So if the client has like 60% profit margins, 70, the higher the profit margins, the more you're able to sustain at scale, and also the more you're able to spend to acquire a customer.
Yeah.
So that's number one. And I always say like the one who's able to spend most acquiring a customer usually wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise, you know, if you're able to spend say $70 to acquire a customer and your competitor's only able to spend 40, you're going to be able to outcompete them on, you know, any platform really. So that's number one. Build a good brand. I would say those fundamentals really important. Is it something that is a one-off purchase or something you can purchase frequently? So can you increase lifetime value over a period of time? You know, then you can talk about upsells or a product that is perishable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a product that you can use for a month and then it finishes and you buy a new one. I think that's a really good way to sustain a brand. Another one is say more intangible, which is like building a community around your brand. So I noticed the ones that did really well, they had Facebook groups, you know, like discussing the topic, whatever the brand was. For example, we had a food client and they had like a little community about dieting, etc. And you know, you really build those strong loyal followers that are gonna promote your brand like crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Similar kind of vibes on Instagram, for example, loyal following, always commenting, engaging. So those things are really important, I think. Yeah, what else? I find that also from a marketing side, it's like the brands that do really well, they're always multi-channel. So they're not only relying on Facebook for results, because the reality is like, you know, with the whole iOS thing, Facebook's constantly changing. It's just a big mess. You know, one week and then the next week you're profitable again. So it's a roller coaster ride for these channels. And the ones that really succeed, you know, they're doing influencer marketing, they're doing Facebook, they're doing email, maybe Snapchat, Pinterest, all at once, and Google Ads. And they're combining all that to, you know, really be multi-channel.